Happy New Year. It is 2026, January 6th. Can you believe it? What is happening, beautiful people? I'm talking today super simply on how to actually follow through with your goals. And today is a great representation of that because this show is something that I follow through with every single week. And there's times where you just don't want to do it. Not because I don't want to, not because it's not amazing and I want to give you guys as much as I can, but this is what happens when you set a goal is the reality kicks in of how hard building some things are. And so I thought today would be the best day to teach what we have to do to actually follow through and accomplish the goals that we set. Because in reality, most people don't fail at setting their goals. What they fail at is following through with their goals. And so, Happy New Year, everybody. This is going to be a training where I want everyone to take as much note as you can and actually follow through and set the goal you want to accomplish. And as I go through the notes, what I believe everyone's going to be able to walk away with is a clear standard that they're going to follow through with the rest of the month. So if you're ready for that, type in the chat. Type in the chat something. I forget that this is live, and when I do this show, I have everything prepped, and then I go and I do the whole show, and then I'm like, oh, there's people live watching with me, and there's a chat where I can read what you guys are saying. It is new. I'm still learning how to do all this. Thanks. All right. So I want to show you something for a moment, and shout out to Les for pulling this up. But this is the blue line is what we think happens when we set a goal. We think everything's going to go perfectly. We think it's going to be a smooth progression, just step by step, day by day. But what happens is the actual progress kicks in, and it's a nice big J curve of our finances being stagnant for a period of time, and then it goes up. And so take a look at that valley of disappointment. It's a terrible name, but this valley of disappointment is where a lot of our goals die. We set a goal to make more money, or we set a goal to read our Bible every day, or we set a goal to 2x, 3x our business, or whatever our goal is. And it kind of dies in this space. I can teach this because I have set probably 200, 300 goals that have all died in that little space. And it wasn't until 2023 where I learned about this whole shenanigan thing, and I started to do this framework that I'm about to teach you, which is super simple. Anybody can do it. It's not something you haven't heard before, but I'm just going to give you a nice little reminder of it. For those of you that are on here or watching later, I'm just going to give you a quick reminder. Because the truth with all this is that real progress is delayed. But most people don't get to the point of the real progress hitting because they quit in that nice little space. So the framework that I'm going to show you, type it in the chat, is set, push, and stay. Set, push, and stay. I want you to think of one goal that you keep giving up on, whether it is in your health, or it is in your finances, or your faith, or your environment. Just think of one goal that you have, and I put the Truca 8 here. So you guys can think about it for a moment. When we do number one, which is set, it is simply taking your goal of increasing your finances to 100K a year, or building my business to $1 million a year, or I want to build my brand to 10K followers, whatever it is. Think about that goal that you've set before, but you gave up on. And what we're going to do is, instead of taking the gigantic pie, we're going to break that pie down into bite-sized pieces. Because the wisdom, super simple, is we cannot eat the whole pie in one bite. We have to take it bite by bite. If that was in a book and you put it against anything on this list of health, of finances, of faith, of your environment, of your business, you will succeed if you just take bite-sized pieces. And so what does this mean with set? We're going to take one goal that we keep giving up on, and we're going to set one daily standard. Just one daily standard. Type in the chat what word categorizes your goal, whether it's finances or relationship or faith. Just give me some ideas so I can work off of that. Put it in the chat. And I know YouTube is like 12 seconds delayed, so just put it in there. So when we set one daily standard, here's what it looks like. When it comes to business, we know that in order to increase our revenue, we have to increase the value and the service that we bring to other people. That truth goes along with any business. The more value we bring to others, the more revenue we'll be able to have for our business. So the one daily standard, if your goal was to build your business, make it more successful, create more revenue, then the daily standard would be, every single day I'm going to follow up with a customer, or every single day I'm going to read 15 pages of a marketing book, or every single day I'm going to create 10 minutes of high leverage content. That becomes the place where you rebuild self-trust for yourself. When we set a goal every single year or every single month, whenever you guys set goals, and you go through this nice valley of disappointment, what's happening here is we're losing a lot of self-trust for ourselves. We're telling ourselves, hey, I want to do this thing, but I don't follow through, or I couldn't follow through. And so we didn't achieve the actual goal that we wanted. And so the second, third, or fifth, 10th time that you set the goal, your mind is already telling yourself, I don't think I can hit this, but people keep telling me to set goals anyways. And so we want to unrot our brain from all the times that we were not able to follow through. And that's okay, because 99% of people do not follow through. And it's a beautiful thing, because the bar is set pretty low for us to actually hit our goals. But that's number one, set. You set one daily standard that rebuilds your self-trust. And every single day, as you're doing it, it is building your identity towards that goal. I'm going to explain this. The version of you that has a successful business is one that is showing up every day and is one that is consistent and disciplined in his or her finances or his or her leadership, etc. How we currently are may not be at that level yet. So we have to ask ourselves, how do we become a better business owner? How do we become more consistent? You do that by every day slowly eating the pie, every day putting in little bits of reps. Same thing when you're building muscle. It's just every day putting a little bit of action towards it. And so I want you guys to break it down in your minds where it becomes so simple and so easy, where it's just one daily standard that every day I have to do. Okay. Number two, write it down, push. We have set and now we have push. Now that we have a daily standard to follow up with someone every day or check your bank account every day, which I highly recommend, it builds the habit of trust with yourself, with your finances. Or maybe it's creating a piece of content every day. Some type of standard that helps you build. We're going to do push now. Because back to this diagram, what's going to happen is most people quit when it gets quiet. Most people quit when it gets slow, which is going to happen inevitably with anything that you do. When we have a push, you're able to stimulate a bit of momentum, a bit of a spark that shows you a bit of progress, which gives us in our minds, hey, this is working. I should keep going. Because it is very hard to go 14 days, let alone 7 days of no progress, but still having to do the daily standard. Because if you've, like myself, have shown to yourself that I was not able to follow through with something, 7 days of doing the same thing without getting any progress is very demoralizing. It is very hard to keep going. And so we have to set something up for ourselves to get some momentum. And so this is where push comes in. This is a short bout of intensity that creates momentum. For example, back in the business example, this is a 14-day challenge of, let me give you an example in our business. One thing we did in our education business was we did a 60 days to deals. If you do not know, I and my business partner, we run a real estate education program and a school, and we teach people how to invest in real estate. And so what we did was a 60-day Zoom that allowed us to every day be on for 30 minutes with students, showing them how to do deals, calling deals live, and inviting them to our event. And so it was a fantastic marketing push to get people to our event. And in those 60 days, what did we learn? We learned how to become better speakers. We learned how to be very consistent. We learned how to hold 100 people's attention for 60 days straight. And also, it was a push. It was a spark of momentum. That one 60-day push got us to $250,000 in revenue after 30 days. Or after the 90-day mark. So 60 days and then 30 days because we did our event. It was a $250,000 push from a 60-day spark of momentum. And so the same thing works in our fitness. For example, we did a 10-day challenge, which has now become a 100-day challenge of 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 crunches, plus 10 minutes of reading. I did it with all of my team members. I did it with my friends and my family. Les and Andrew did it as well. And I did it because, number one, I wanted to get myself back in fantastic health, but also I wanted my team to be on the same page. So what did we do? We did a push, a spark of momentum, 10 days of 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 crunches. Everyone did it. Now we're on day 49, I believe 49, and I still have 10 people who are doing it every day with me. So those are a few examples of a push that you can create, a spark. You guys heard of 75 hard. That is a huge spark that gets you going. I know Fernot on here did a 75 hard challenge, and I saw his transformation. So you think about this valley of disappointment, it's almost jumping out of it, which doesn't always happen, but it's a way to stimulate the jump. So you see some progress, and so you can continue on this curve. Now, here is I say most important, but the other two are so important. Number 3 is stay. Once you set the daily standard and once you push it, by the way, with push, the rule is it has to have a start date, it has to have a metric, and it has to have an end date. You have to start it at a certain day. The metric has to be simple, 100 push-ups, 100 squats, 100 crunches, and it has to have an end date. Our end date now is 100 days. Then it is stay. What happens with a lot of people in the push is you do 75 hard, or you do a 10-day challenge, or you do a speed diet. And after you get some progress, but then you drop all the way down because you either quit, you either give up, or you try that push period for way too long and then you burn out. That's what happens for most people, right? There's some people who quit because it gets quiet. There's some people who quit because they burn out and it gets too difficult. So number 3 is you stay. After a push, you just return to baseline. You stay at baseline. For myself, it goes back to the daily standard. For myself, it was just going to the gym. It was going to the gym at least 5 times a week. After this challenge, I'm going to do that. And with my business, it's the same thing. If I set a daily standard and I set a push, I eventually have to go back to my standard. When we do this, and I'm telling you, it's so simple. I know I'm saying a lot more because I think it helps to really go into it and explain it. But this right here, this quickly drawn diagram is the key to our success in any area of our lives. If we can just take the pie one at a time, we create a bit of momentum, and then we return to baseline, we will soon see that actual progress. And when we experience that actual progress, it will retell your brain and reprogram it in a sense to say, I can do hard things. Because nothing is really that difficult if we simply break it down into step-by-step pieces. Now, I'm going to recap. You set one daily standard. Make sure you have that down. What is the goal and what is the one thing you can do every day that's going to slowly move you towards that goal? Next is a push. You set a time to start and a time to end a push, a 7 to 14 to 30 day spark of momentum, and then you stay. That means you don't change the standard. You don't change anything. You just stay at it because results typically lag behind the habits and the actions that you put into. And so 30 days of doing something, you might not see it on the 30-day mark. It's probably going to come on the 40-day, 50-day, 60-day mark. And so that process means just stay at it. Here's the rule that really, really did help me is some days you cannot stay to something every single day. Some days it's the craziest day ever and you just cannot do it, but you don't want to lie to yourself because you really committed to this. This is the 2-day rule. It is very simple. Never miss 2 days. That's it. Never miss 2 days. If you had a terrible day and you really had to skip the daily standard or a day in your push, that's okay. Just don't skip 2 days. That is when it's unacceptable, is when you skip 2 days. Skipping 1 day is okay. Everyone has bad days. Skipping 2 days, you have to mark that for yourself as unacceptable. It's not my job to say it's unacceptable. It's your job to say it's unacceptable. We have to set those standards for ourselves. Another rule or help to you is in the push from strength. Push from strength. If you're depleted at 0, do not try to over push yourself. You got to know where your edge is. It's a beautiful thing for us as people to find our edge and then know when you're about to fall off the edge. Most people, they push, and they fall way off the edge and they burn out. We have to be people who know our edge and we get to a certain point here and we know that this is our edge and we have to take a bit of a rest. And because you did that, you got to see where your edge is, and it gets to it, your strength increases in it every time you see your edge. It's a beautiful diagram. I'll explain another time. So that's it. That's how you hit your goals. But I wanna do a couple of breakdowns of examples of this for those of you who are on here that have a lot of goals ahead of you. I'm gonna go to a couple of your guys' comments for a quick minute before we wrap up. So, finances is a big one for most people. If you want to increase your income, you have to think, how do I increase my value that I add to people? So, these sets, for example, if I'm wanting to make more money this year, I'm wanting to increase my income from 2K to 5K. One of the best things, first of all, is asking yourself, what is my lever? What's my focus going to be able to increase income? If you're at work, if you're at a job, if you're in a business, it's going to be different for everyone. I'm going to speak for freelancers and people who own a business. When we're setting our standard, try to set something that is high leverage. That means if you do the thing, not only do you get benefit from the thing, like making content, because it could go out, it can go viral, it can bring people in, but you also get the benefit of the skill set of content creation and distribution, creativity, and copywriting, like being able to write good words. Creating content is a fantastic daily standard. How you push it is you do a 14-day challenge, 14-day content sprint where every day you post 2 times, or every day you post once and you do 30 minutes of engagement. Something that gets your creative juices rolling where you're super excited to do this thing. Okay. And then the stay is after this big push happens, you return to a baseline of content creation. If you do that for enough time, you start to see this happen over and over again, where you set a goal to be successful in your brand and you hit it. You set a goal to be successful in your finances and you hit it. You set a goal to be successful in your fitness and you hit it. And before you know it, you have this confidence about yourself that knows that you can do anything. You know, when people say you can do anything, it is true if you understand the wisdom of chunking things down. So let's do this together. I want everyone to look at the Truca 8 for a moment and see what area they are struggling with to know where they need to set a goal in. How I do this is I just look at the 8 and I rate myself 1 out of 10 in each. Vitality, how am I feeling? Emotions, faith, tribe, vocation, wealth, environment, wisdom. Once you have chosen the weakest one, why do I choose the weakest one? Because the weakest one typically brings the rest of them down. If my emotions are at an all-time low, guess what? It's going to be very hard to work. It's going to be very hard to clean up the space. It's going to be very hard to read my Bible. It's going to be very hard to do anything. So I choose that one. What I do afterwards is I ask myself, what is one thing or one goal I could set in my wealth that will change everything else? That by the end of 2026, I will look back and I was so glad I set that goal and I was so glad I hit that goal. For some of us in wealth, it is building strong financial habits, or it's building a strong income that gives me an abundance every single month, or it's investing a certain amount or building good investing habits. Whatever that is, then you do the set, push, and stay. That's the whole framework. But if there's one thing you can do, it is just remember, bite by bite by bite. And if you stay at that long enough, you will achieve the progress that you've been looking for. Okay? Have a beautiful, beautiful week. I know this was a quick one, a quick update on what's happening with the show. is that I am going to actually start promoting this out more. Uh, this was my standard. Every single week, do a show, even when it's not a good time or I'm uncomfortable to do it. And I think I've gotten comfortable enough to be able to share it out because I was nervous to do so because I talk about what I think is truth on here, and it's something I'm working on being able to put out more. So that's an update. Still Tuesdays, 3 p.m. It's going to be live every single week, and I'm going to bring as much sauce and game as I can. Have a fantastic rest of your week. I will see you all very soon. Peace.